And I wanted to have a look at Cardano, just because I haven't actually looked at it recently, and it has had a big pump up to a new all-time high, and I just thought I'd have a look. And if I'm going to look at it, I might as well do it in front of all you guys, and then you can critique me. But at least maybe we can learn together if we do that. So again, we're going to start on the 4-day chart. This is the Kraken chart. And if you know anything about what happened last week, Kraken had this very strange anomaly where it went down to about 15 cents. And that makes me sad to think that I didn't have a trade lined up in Kraken at a ridiculous price, just in case, because it might have been filled. But anyway, it's kind of screwed around with our charts a bit, but we will continue. Just looking at the Phoenix Ascending indicator, obviously throughout that big dump last week, the green line fell a little, but it's recovered to where it was. Hasn't really changed anything. Cardano on the long term looks incredibly bullish ever since its breakout from the sort of 10-cent mark, and that's going to continue as we keep going. The pressure is coming up from underneath 50. The green line is miles above 50. It's up at 86. The downside to that is that when that pressure does eventually drop off, like it did here, it can fall in a big way very quickly. Obviously this chart is a little bit skewed by that 15-cent anomaly, but it's still worth looking at. On the 4-day, we're incredibly high, bullish, pleasant, nice view of the world from the 4-day vantage point. I think Cardano over the long term has got a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of fundamentals coming out over the next few weeks that will make that even bigger. And I think eventually the shift from 10 cents to $1 will look more like one of these moves down here when we look at the overall chart of Cardano. So then I thought I'd go back to the what are we on now, 3-day, and pretty much the same. Had a wee dip with that fall down of grace last week, but energy's still coming up from the underside, pushing it up, keeping it buoyant, and so nothing really to look at on the 3-day. Whoops, wrong button. 2-day, very similar, but we see that we didn't actually cut through the 50 line. So on the 2-day chart, apart from that weird anomaly, we shouldn't have come down to the yellow Bollinger Band basis at all, but it recovered so quickly, and that's like a matter of minutes, that it didn't allow the green to close below. So very strange. But again, energy coming up through 50, green, RSI and blue LSMA very strong at the moment. Down to the 24-hour. The energy has fallen off from our peak that we reached a couple days ago when we got to 148. Wow, $1.48 US, all-time high for Cardano now, and we have come off that a little bit. The energy has fallen back to 0, but it's taken 2 days to get there, so it's not a very steep incline. And we could see that very similar to this, it just sort of comes down and bounces back up. Look how long it took that one to peter down to 50, and it was only when it got to 50, as you can see by following that line above, that we saw our first blue candle, blue in my case, or bearish candle, that we'd seen in several days after that massive run. So there's no real sign that the green is heading towards 0, so there's no real fear of us going back to 102 unless it does it briefly. So still very bullish on the daily. 12 hours, green is above the energy has gone below 50, but it has exhausted and looks to be rolling off. And so that's also a bullish move, and over the next couple of 12-hour candles you could probably expect to see this come straight back up. So we might be coming up to test those all-time highs over the next couple of days. It would be worth looking at and watching shorter time frames to see if that happens. 6-hour time frame, We did come down below the 50 briefly. That meant that, I'm going to turn that other indicator off so we can see it a bit more clearly. That meant that we did come very close to that yellow Bollinger Band basis. But because we didn't plummet underneath it, heading down towards the 20, we didn't actually break through that. And overall, the average just kept that Bollinger Band basis rising over time. The current 6-hour candle that we've got is a little bit bearish and has seen a reduction in the height of that green indicator. But while that's happening, the white energy has come up. So they're converging a little bit around the 50, and that's likely to see sideways action over the next wee while. Potentially it might mean that the energy comes past the green, if that green just goes sideways and the energy keeps coming up. And that would mean as it rolls over, it would push the green down and we'd see a drop in price action. That's why it's really important to look at shorter time frames. When we look at a time frame like this and it looks incredibly bullish and we're like, yeah, this is exciting, we're going to go back up. And the green's higher than the energy, so that'll mean we get a higher high. Yes, except we've got to check those lower time frames and just see what's happening. So maybe not, given the 6-hour time frame. Potentially more consolidation sideways. 3-hour, we have been flirting with that yellow Bollinger Band basis, and we can see that with the green line bouncing around the 50 and below and above and back to it. But you can see that in the 3-hour, the energy has come above the green and is now pushing the green down, which has given us a couple of bearish candles, and that could continue. But again, very shallow moves. You know, the green's been down here at -19, -12, whatever, but didn't quite even make it to the 80. And so that could just mean sideways motion with no real gains over the next few 3-hour candles. And the 90, just because it's available here, obviously a bit more movement in our indicators. We've gone back down below 50, although in the 90 the green has come above the white energy. The white energy is still falling, whereas the green line has started to roll off. You can see that with a reading of 30 in the green versus basically 20 in the energy. And that could mean that over the next couple of 90-minute candles, that as this energy exhausts and turns around to head back up.
Zoom video.
Thank you very much, Zoom video. That we actually get a bullish move. So I think overall a bit of sideways. Look at the shorter time frames. There might be some scalps available, and I think that's really the only way we can look at Cardano at the moment until maybe a fundamental piece of news comes out and helps to lift off again towards that all-time high. So